Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chiseled. And why do we call it Chiseled? Because we're all work in progress. I'm Rob Commodari, your host. I'm also the author of Better You Think. And today I have a guest, Bill Hampton. Bill Hampton is the CEO, CMO, and Chief Business Development Officer. He has been that, and he's held all these different titles to help businesses grow. He's got a great story. He's a guy that started working with Dave Ramsey. I think he told me when he was age 24. And he took over a Sunday school class, financial peace class, where Dave had hundreds and hundreds of people coming. And I'll let him tell you how many people showed up in his first class. But Dave, if you don't know Dave Ramsey, he has the Dave Ramsey Show, the largest independently owned talk radio show in the country. And it's really about financial wherewithal, financial knowledge and whatnot. More than 4.5 million listeners at over 500 radio stations. So Bill is the founder of Hampton Strategies, business consulting firm dedicated to making brands bigger than they are today by casting a vision and developing a game plan towards accomplishment and realization. Bill was with the Ramsey organization for 13 years, and we're going to get into how he met Dave, what happened there, and then there's something really cool that happened later after the Ramsey effect. We'll call it the Ramsey effect. So Bill, welcome to the show.
Robert, great to be here with you. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to us getting to spend some time together today.
I appreciate you. He's a Tennessee Volunteer, and I'm a Maryland Terp, and our Terps almost overcame a huge deficit this past week, and you'll hear this a couple months after the fact, but I was going to bust his balls if we'd come back at one. So anyway, so Bill, you were with Dave Ramsey. So Dave Ramsey, he's a big name in the radio talk show in the finance world, and you met him at age 24. Can you give us a little insight as to how that happened?
Yeah, man, I was moving from Atlanta, Georgia to Nashville, Tennessee, and I had a music management company and a concert promotion business. And man, I was 24 years old and I was broke. I didn't have any money. Like I had money, but I didn't know how to handle it. So I was always thinking about money. And I was driving the U-Haul to Nashville. I'm flipping radio stations, and I heard this Hillbilly on the radio. And I was born and raised in Michigan. I'm not from the South, but I got here as fast as I could. But I was born and raised in Michigan. And man, when we hear people like that, I'm not talking Southern, I'm talking hillbilly. And so I was kind of listening just for the entertainment value. But then I realized this guy's talking about money, and I understand almost everything he's saying. Like, it's making sense to me. And I listened the whole way to Nashville. And I pulled off my exit, pulled into the apartment complex. I went upstairs and I called Dave Ramsey on the radio and asked him a question. I got through because he had no listeners back then and was probably just happy to talk to somebody. And we talked for a while, and he said, "Hey, Bill, why don't you come out to my Financial Peace University class? I teach it at the Holiday Inn just down the road from you. And I'd love for you to come out and check it out." So I did. And it was just one of those relationships, Robert, that we've had in our lives where, man, Dave and I just hit it off. I joined his class. I started applying the principles. It literally changed my financial life. And it just started from there.
So you started there at age 24, and you were there for 13 years, correct?
Well, I met Dave when I was 24. I didn't start working for him until I was 27. There was 3 years went on, but I taught his classes. In fact, Financial Peace University, a lot of your listeners will be familiar with it. It's a personal finance course. Dave created that course as a Sunday school class at a local, really large church here in Nashville. And he taught that curriculum as a Sunday school class. And there was 900 people attending that class. And Dave came to me at 24 years old and said, "Bill, I'm getting too busy. I can't continue doing this class. I'd love it if you could take it over." And I was like, "Well, of course, Dave, I'll take it over. 900 people, what an opportunity." Well, the first Sunday I taught it, 16 people showed up. It went from 900 to 16. So I learned a lot about the value of a name, and I did not have one at the time, but I appreciate the opportunity. It was humbling, but that's kind of my experience starting out with Dave.
He didn't come over to you and say, "Bill, what are you doing to me? I got 900. You get 15. What's going on here?" Pink slip already, right?
Exactly.
So, okay, so you start working at age 27, 13 years there, and you are a big part of the building of his empire. Is that a fair statement?
It is. It is. I was able to lead a large majority of the company. It started in radio, and then it developed into all the marketing and the IT and the programming and the publishing. And I was able to represent Dave on his deals to do books. Dave sold millions of books, and I was able to be very involved in that process. And high school and college curriculums on personal finance, oversaw all of that. And so, yeah, it was a really great experience. And I tell you, when Dave asked me to join his team and come run his radio division, I was doing really well, Robert. For me, at 27 years old, I was leading a speakers bureau. We represented public figures for their speaking engagements, athletes, entertainers, authors. And at the time, I was going to make, like, that year, 1999, I was going to make like a little over $100,000, which at that time was a lot of money for a 27-year-old kid.
Yes.
Dave offered me $36,000. He promised me a salary of $36,000, but said, Bill, I'll share with you whatever you bring in. And I said, Dave, first of all, I've worked my butt off to make six figures. Not only are you only offering me $36,000, but Dave, you want me to run your radio division, and I don't know how the signal gets from the studio to the car. I thought about it. And here's what he said to me. I've never forgotten it. He said, Bill, that's exactly why I want you. Because if you were a career radio guy, you wouldn't believe we could accomplish what I'm getting ready to lay out for you that I want to accomplish. And Robert, he was exactly right. If I'd have been a career radio guy, I'd have told him all the reasons that he wanted to do, why that couldn't be done. That's not how radio works, Dave. That's not how it's done. Let me show you how the business works. Dave was like, forget that. We're going to forge our own path.
Wow.
And you know what? I bought it. I bought the vision, and I said, I'm in, let's go. And he and I locked arm in arm, and we set out to change the radio industry. And over those 13 years, we did.
You did, yeah, absolutely. And then, so just for the folks to know, I met Bill at a conference, at Brian Buffini conference, and he did a presentation and talking about some of the stuff here. And so I was attracted to this next piece, which you're going to hear here. So there was a point in time on this journey, because obviously you're in, you locked arm in arm, and you're fired up, and you're excited, and you're passionate. But was there a time, or when did the time come that you kind of started to feel something changing?
You know what? It came as I grew as a leader. You know, I was the 15th person hired on at Dave Ramsey's company. Well, then it grew to 100 people, 200 people, 300 people, 400, 500 people. And I was leading them. And I think this is a problem a lot of leaders go through. Everything I once did, I'd now hired somebody to do. And so I was like, man, am I really worth this money I'm making? Because remember, Dave told me, I'll share with you whatever you bring in. Well, when I joined Dave's company, we were doing about $2 million a year. And that grew to $70 million a year, Robert. And he held true to his word. He didn't change my deal. He didn't say, oh, well, Bill, we didn't know it would be that much money.
Right.
But he said he honored it. And so I was making a lot of money. I was doing extremely well. Everything I did to earn that money, somebody else was now doing. And I was just started to go through this thing going, man, what do I get paid? Like, what am I doing really?
Yeah.
I thought work involved like rolling up your sleeves and physically doing stuff. And now I just lead and tell people. And I started questioning, and I even started going, asking myself, am I worth this? Is this real? Am I, the imposter syndrome we hear about? I started believing it.
Wow.
And so that started a little bit in me. I was struggling with that.
And so were you starting to feel, you said, what am I doing? What am I worth? Was there a point where you're like, I'm not feeling fulfilled right now?
Yes. I definitely got to the point where the cool thing about working for a guy like Dave and a big personality like that, and the company, the success that we had, you got a lot of resources. When you have an idea, you can execute on it very quickly. And we did a lot of really fun things. but it's also a really big safety net. Like you really can't mess up. And I just got to a point, Robert, where I told Dave this when I met with him and told him I was leaving. I told him, I said, Dave, you know what? I want to just take off running in a direction. And if I run into a wall and break my nose, I run into a wall and break my nose. But you weren't there to cushion the blow. I need to get out there and see, can I do this for myself? Can I really build something? And I'm just ready to get in the game and risk and jump in. And we had just built Ramsey to a point where that wasn't going to happen. Like we weren't going to have a lethal or a final failure. And I just was ready to jump. It's kind of how God made me. He made me to risk. I love to have a hill to climb. I love to have a hill to climb so much that sometimes I will dig a hole and jump in it just so I have to climb out. And I got to watch that, but I do it. And I love a challenge.
That's dangerous, right? So the next phase of this, you tell Dave Ramsey that you're leaving and you go and I'll spill the beans here, but you tell the story. And Bill goes and works selling peaches out of the back of a truck.
I did.
High level executive making lots and lots of money, and he wants to go sell peaches out of a truck. Bill, please share that story with everybody, please.
Well, Robert, when I left Dave, I genuinely didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew it was time to move on. And no one believed that. Nobody would possibly believe that this guy making a healthy 7-figure income every year, when I went places, I flew private and I had this life that everyone was like, oh, he's got everything. Nobody believed that I was going to walk away from that. But I was very content with that decision. God gave me total peace about that decision. And let's be honest, I had the resources to just sit back. It wasn't like I was, in the poorhouse.
Right.
And so I took a year off and I just, honestly, I had a great mentor in my life. I would just walk around town and I would consider, and I'd talk to God and just say, Lord, what do you have for me? And when I was doing that, I noticed this young couple in my town selling peaches out of the back of an old 1963 Jeep Gladiator truck. But more importantly, I saw people getting these peaches, telling everybody about them, talking about how wonderful they were. And I loved the way they reacted. And so in that time when I was just sitting, considering what I was going to do next, I realized that I really do love business. And I really do love growing businesses and marketing and building a brand. And so I was looking at that going, God, is that what you have for me? Like, did you really have me leave running one of the largest media brands in the country to sell peaches? But I approached that couple and I said, hey guys, I'd love to invest in your business. And they were like, invest in what, Bill? We just sell some peaches out of the back of our truck. And I was like, man, I just think if we can get more people to know about them, we can sell a lot more than a few peaches. And I'll tell you, that was 2012. And that summer, peach season's a 13-week season. That's it. And they sold like $26,000 in peaches and, a couple thousand a week, not bad.
Right.
But as we dove in, I decided I was going to work with them for a year, lead their company. And we started telling that story over and over. Oldest peach farm in Georgia, 100-year-old, all the peaches and these, why they're so special and why they're so good and juicy. And that next summer, we sold $660,000 in peaches. And man, I got to tell you, when you sell peaches, it's hard work. Like you work every day of those 13 weeks. Selling $660,000 worth of those things, it'll about kill you. But Robert, I got to tell you, the Lord did an amazing work in my life over those 13 weeks. He grew my relationship with my daughter, who was 14 at the time. She sold peaches with me every day.
Oh my gosh.
And we became so close to each other. Our relationship got so tight. And, I love it when Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back.
Oh.
And so when I left Dave, did I know why I was leaving? No, I can't connect the dots looking forward. But man, after 13 weeks of selling peaches with my daughter, I could connect them looking back. It may be exactly why I left Dave Ramsey, just to connect with my family and get tight. It was special.
And so I love how you talk about connecting the dots looking backwards, because it's easier to do that, obviously, than looking forward to try to connect dots. But like, was there ever a time while you're in this peach business, did you question yourself? Did you say, what did I do? How could I left what I left to do what I'm doing? Or was it always like, I'm engaged in the peaches?
It's a great question, Robert. I didn't. I loved selling peaches.
Yeah.
I loved cutting a peach slice and giving it to a customer and watching them react to how good it tasted. I got to tell you, I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah.
And the only times, look, I worked with some of my best friends at Ramsey's. Dave is still a dear friend. I think the world of him and have tremendous respect for that organization still. But the only time I question leaving is, look, man, having a lot of money's fun. I mean, you get to do a lot of fun things.
Yeah.
And I so there's times when I go, boy, that sure was nice. And that actually clarifies that I made the right decision, because it was time to move on. But look, I had a blast working there and we had a good time, but I'm having more fun right now than I've ever had.
So how long did you work with the peach business, or in the peach business?
Just a year, like I said, it's a 13-week, 7-day-a-week job. And that young couple, they had no kids. It's a great job. But when you got 5 kids, I'm working every day when my kids are out of school. And then when my kids go back to school, dad's free. But it's just the schedule didn't work. And so I just did it for 1 year.
So what had that peach business, has that grown since, or did it fall back? What happened with that business?
You ready for this? Not only has it grown, and a lot of it is continuing on the systems that we put in place. And they have a really sharp owners. They're smart people. But that business did $15 million in sales last year, 13 weeks, 15 million.
That's incredible. And a lot of that is attributed to your help.
Well, Robert, it's, you know what? You put the structure in place, and then you refine it. And then as you get it tight, you grow it, and then you grow it, and then you do it again. And then you look up and you go, oh, well, we used to do it in this little area, and now we're doing it across 15 states. And yeah, it's grown for them. I'm so happy for them.
That's awesome. So then you leave the peach business, and I don't know what the time frame was between the selling the peaches till you got into the shed business, correct?
Right. Well, when I left the peach business, I had a guy call me one time. I was driving down the road, and this guy called me, and he said, "Hey, Bill." I had met him, and he said, "Hey, this was a Saturday," and he said, "I'm flying to London on Monday, and I was wondering if you'd come with me." And I was like, "Well, I've never been to London. What are you doing?" He said, "I'm going to meet with an online gaming company. They were trying to develop online bingo." And he said, "I'm going to meet with a company there, and I'd love for you to come along as a consultant just to sit and listen and tell me your thoughts." I was like, "Great, see you at the airport." So I flew to London on Monday. We came back on Wednesday. It was that quick of a trip. But as I was there, I was like, man, that was fun. I got no skin in the game. I just get to sit on their dime and listen, and then offer my input. And I think I added value. I think I'd like to do that. I think I'd like to consult for companies. And so I started a consulting company. Oh. And I started developing clients. It's how I met the Buffinis. The Buffinis reached out and asked if I'd come meet with them and start consulting with them. But anyways, I had another client of mine that was a 50-year-old Amish shed builder. And they were wanting to grow their business. And I got into it and thought it was interesting. And Robert, I just think business and people are interesting, and I love learning about them and hearing their story. You were telling me your story before this podcast started, and I was so sucked into it. It was just, it's what makes things so interesting.
Yeah.
And so I jumped into that. And then about a year after consulting with them, they asked me to come lead their company. And Robert, I'm somebody that loves change. I move fast. I'm always looking for the next thing. So I got to tell you, it kind of didn't make a lot of sense that I decided to lead an Amish shed builder, because if you haven't noticed, they're not real quick to change. But I got to tell you, it was a great experience. I spent 20 years there, 3-year period. But I learned a lot. I made a lot of good friends. They're good people. And then I moved on from there. It wasn't, but we grew that business. We grew that business about 5-fold in the 3 years that I was there, doing these same things. And it really ties around story. There's great story everywhere you look. If you can just learn to tell it, that's what people are interested in. They're so interested in your story. And so we just tell those stories, and
the stories sell, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Facts tell, stories sell. That's exactly right.
So, Bill, at the end of the Ramsey journey, you said you were starting to feel a little unfulfilled. You got into the peach business, and I can hear it when you tell the story. You got this energy, you got this passion. You can say I assume there was some fulfillment in that process as well. And then you lead the Amish company. So, are you feeling fulfilled in the sense that you've helped others build their businesses, or are you also feeling fulfilled and you discovering the passion within yourself and who you're supposed to be?
So, Robert, I have 2 sons. They're 11 and 13 years old. And I coached their little league baseball teams from the time they were 4 to, 9 or 10. I coached them all the way up. And if you told me, Bill, you can coach a college baseball team or you can coach 6-year-olds, I would coach 6-year-olds. And the reason why is, I don't know how it is everywhere, but here in Tennessee, you go through a stage where you go from T-ball to coach pitch, and the coach will be about 10 feet from the batter and the coach will pitch.
Uh-huh.
And man, I got to tell you, when a kid would get up to bat and he's nervous and he's never hit the ball and he's just learning how to play and his parents are there filming, wanting to see him get a hit, and I can throw that pitch and give him the confidence and he makes contact. Robert, I got to tell you, I would jump up and I would chase him to first base and I would lift him over my head and I would yell and scream and celebrate. I loved it. And that is what I like to do for businesses. Because what they did, what happened there? That kid did something he didn't know he could do.
Yeah.
And now he's done it. And so he can do it again. And I don't care if it's Brian Buffini or an Amish shed builder or peach sales. I love identifying where people are, where they think they can be, and then help them go further. I genuinely believe that's something that God created in me. And when I'm doing that, what does it say in Chariots of Fire, right? God made me fast, and when I run, I feel his pleasure. And that's what I believe. I feel God's pleasure when I'm doing what he created me to do, and that's it.
That's amazing. And I love it because it's, this podcast is called Chiseled, and you think of a piece of marble and you're knocking stuff off of it. But when you're knocking those pieces of marble off, something evolves, and you could call that evolution. And so you've evolved into this Bill Hampton that you're supposed to be. And I don't know what the future looks like for you, but I hear the energy and I hear the passion. So is there a goal to I want to help as many businesses as I can, or help as many people build businesses as I can? Is that
so Robert, you've heard me speak, and one of the things I talk about in there is why we should promote ourselves and our business. And that comes out of the book of Proverbs. It was King Solomon that said, do not withhold good from somebody when it's within your power to do it. And I got to tell you what God's been working on me about something, and that is I tell other people to promote your business because you shouldn't withhold good from people Whether you're a plumber or a painter or an auto mechanic or a realtor or a loan officer, it doesn't matter. Tell people about you because you should help them because it's within your power to do it. And if you don't, it's wrong. And one day I was sitting there going, I tell everybody else to do that. Well, I've grown other careers and I've grown other brands and I'm really good at growing other people's brands. Well, maybe it's time to grow my own because I genuinely think I can help some people. And so I'm working right now. In 2023, I'm committed to growing my own brand and to learning to tell my story better and to really get defined on what it is I can do to help others realize more out of their own life. And so that's kind of what I'm committed to. And I'm really focused on that right now.
That's great. And thank you for your willingness to do that. I don't know if I fit in there anywhere or not, but we'll talk about that. So here's a question for you. This is like the $64 million question, if you will. So you said when you were leaving Ramsey, you had the safety net, right? And you earned that. You rightfully earned that, right? So what do you say to the person that doesn't have the safety net, that's in a business, a job, whatever they're doing, and are not feeling fulfilled, and there's something pulling at them? What do you say to that person?
Yeah. Well, you got to have a plan, first of all. I left Dave and took a year off because I could. Things were in place. But I still had a plan. Like that wasn't just, I didn't just decide, I'm out of here. No. And so you've got to look at your finances. You've got to understand, okay, if I leave and don't have another job and don't get another job, how long can I make it realistically? And then, do you have a family? Are they depending on you and your income? Do you have kids? What does that look like? And so you got to look at all your commitments, but that doesn't mean that you stay where you're at forever, which I see so many people do. No, it just means you prepare. So maybe you go, hey, I'm not happy where I'm at. I know I need to move. I really am getting pulled to do something else. Okay, maybe it's a year down the road that you're going to do that. Maybe it's a year and a half, but you start putting the steps in place in order to execute on that. Do you need a certain amount of money saved? Do you need to go ahead and have that other job locked down and in place? Whatever it is, but start planning, but don't jump without a plan.
Well said. Well said. So, because I know there's people out there that they're feeling it. They're feeling it and they're like, okay, what do I do? So thanks for laying that out for them. I guess the other piece I want to ask you here is you've said it several times. I think I've mentioned it a couple of times. Pull, the word pull. So you're feeling a pull. Now, there may be some people, because look, this is all about awareness. Let's face it, right? There's different levels of awareness that we all go through in our lives. And depending on what you read, what you put in, what you experience is going to dictate what kind of awareness or levels of awareness that you have. So some people might not even realize that they're being pulled, right? How would you encourage somebody to become aware that they're being pulled?
Well, so Robert, look, I'm a Christ follower and I'm a Christian. And so this is for me. And if you're not, you got to figure out a way to do this in your own life. But for me, I'll just speak from my own personal experience. It's prayer. It's every day asking God what it is he has for me and not expecting an answer immediately, but just consistently showing up and putting those prayers out there and then being aware that of every relationship that comes into your life. I've been praying lately, asking the Lord for some opportunities and things. And here's what my prayers sound like nowadays, Robert. They're like this. They're like, God, listen, I'm not going to try to say the right words. I'm not going to try to say it exactly right to you. You know my heart. Here's what I want. Like, I'm just going to ask you for it, right? I'm just going to ask you for it. And then you can help me know the proper way to say it, I guess, down the road. But here's what I want. And, it's like the other day, I was out in California and I went to a sports bar to watch a Monday Night Football game. I was there by myself and I was like, I'll go to the sports bar and watch a game. And I'm sitting there and this a guy well in his 80s came up and sat down next to me. And I'll be honest, I was sitting there going, crap, I just want to sit and watch this game. And he's probably going to want to talk. And then I immediately was like, oh my gosh, okay, God, maybe you sat this guy here. And so we started, and man, we spent about 2 hours that night talking. He was the most fascinating guy. His story was amazing. He and his wife had written a book. Their story was incredible. And I left there so inspired about things. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like, you don't know. So I say, for me, I pray about it. I ask God to bring opportunities into my life. And then I try to be aware of everything that's moving around me, because sometimes I'm so stupid, I miss it. And I just go, Lord, is that something you got for me? Is that something? Or is that you? Are you bringing that? And then I look at it. And man, I got to tell you, it's a great way. So I just encourage to throw it out there. Like, look, if you're a universe person, throw it out to the universe. Just throw it out there, but consistently show up and do it and see what reveals itself to you.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Bill, because like sometimes I'll sit here and I just start like, we all have struggles, right? We all, you can be doing great here, doing great there, but you're always going to come across these struggles. And what I've done lately is like, Lord, just, I have my heart match your heart. And do that for me and help me see that. And when I'm aware and see that, then we can't do any wrong. And that's what I look to. That's what I try to do. And it's just like I told you the story about this podcast. I wrote the book I wrote, Better Than You Think. That was totally Holy Spirit guided for me. And that's what you see in the background, that poster. That's a cover of my book.
I hope I get a copy.
I'm going to send you a copy.
Good.
And it'll be better than you think too. Anyway, but and so I wrote this book, and I would say, God, talk to me. Holy Spirit, talk to me. And then you just close your eyes and you listen, and what's resonating with you when you're listening and when you're quiet. And that's how I use it for myself to become aware of what's going on in and around me and things I'm supposed to do. And I got to tell you this quick story, Bill. Just the other night, I was telling you, I got a mastermind group, and we get together at the end of every year. We do a presentation for each other, and we're required to do a 45-minute PowerPoint presentation for each other. We've been doing this for 11 years now. So, I mean, it's you and two buddies, and, who cares, right? So I get a lot of pictures for the end of the year. I mean, I'm talking, maybe 150, 200 pictures for different areas of my life that I want to share. And so my wife keeps these organized files of our pictures. And I had gone through every file, and I just jotted down the numbers of the pictures. So when I go into the PowerPoint, I just pull them over, click and drag. So I had them on this notepad, and I went and had back surgery last Monday. I did this before the surgery. So I needed to make a copy of some information from a client that was in the same notepad. So I sat the pad on my copier. Now, behind this copier is a shelf, like behind you, sitting you right now. And I got 2 rows of spiritual books. So I get back from surgery, and I'm recovering last week, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start putting these pictures together, and I can't find the pad, right? I'm like, this is gonna take hours and hours of work to do all over again. I'm like, Lord, where's this pad? I know this pad is somewhere in this house, right? So in the morning, I read a lot of personal growth and development books. In the evening, I try to do something either fiction or maybe spiritual. So I just finished the book like last week, and I'm like, all right, God, what am I going to read now? I'm like, you know what? I think it's time for me to pick up another spiritual book. So I walk over to the left of my desk, and I'm looking at my shelf, and I'm looking, okay, spiritual book, right? And all of a sudden I feel this pull, look under the copier. And I lift up the copier, and there's my pad with all these pictures that I'm going to upload to the PowerPoint.
No way.
And I'm like, God's calling me to read a book, but he really wanted to show me where the hell my pad was. so
That's great.
So I'm always talking to him. And I think we always need to be talking to him, because we feel like, okay, the God talk to me. No, talk to him. He wants us to talk to him.
Yes.
So I just wanted to share that with you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely right. And you know what, Robert, for me, I grew up in a very conservative environment, and, the words that we use were so important. And I tell you, I'm so happy now that I just talk to God candidly as can be. I don't got to use fancy words or say the right thing. Man, just tell them your heart. Share it. Share the desires of your heart and see what, like you said, just talk to them and see what happens.
Yeah. So Bill, before we wrap up here, how much more chiseling do you got going on in your life?
Oh man. Oh, you know what, Robert? There's a lot, but I'm very excited about it. I love that saying. Work like it all depends on you, and pray like it all depends on God. And so, I love that because I'm praying hard, but I got a job to do.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of work to do. And the more I work, the more opportunities that I've been asking God for seem to present themselves. Isn't that funny? And so I'm trying to just really dial in on that. And then the other thing that happened recently that I think God is really working on me right now about is my daughter performs in theater. She's in musical theater. She's 14 years old, and she did a concert the other night. It was this winter concert for this group in Nashville. And these 3 little girls, 7 years old, did this song. And man, were they just rocked it. They did an old 80s song by heart at a winter concert. And they did an old 80s song by heart called What About Love? And they sang this song with so much passion, and the crowd was going crazy for them. And the next day I was watching the video of it, and Robert, I literally was brought to tears because I just thought, man, those little girls, no one's told those little girls that they're supposed to care what people think. No one's told those little girls that, man, you should be careful because if you get on stage and mess up, people might laugh at you. Or if your voice cracks when you're talking, people might man, all they knew was we're going to get out here. We're going to love this. We're going to sing this song at the top of our lungs. We're going to let it rip, and the crowd's going to love it. And I thought, boy, how applicable is that to our own life? How many things don't we do because we do care what people are going to think, and we are afraid that we might mess up? And I'm really getting pulled right now to get a hold of people and go, don't let that keep you from doing what you're supposed to do. You've got something in you. Get out there and let it fly, because guess what? The world, like that audience, wants to cheer for you. They want to applaud your effort. They want to applaud you, and you've got something to share. Quit letting fear of what other people think hold you back. Get out there and let it fly. So that is what I'm trying to do in my own life. And that's what I want to encourage other people. That's what I think God's working on me right now with that. That was a significant moment for me.
That's great. So you still struggle with worrying about what people think?
So yeah, sure. Some things. Some things. I mean, look, I was in the speakers business for 3 years. I led a speakers bureau. You don't know the number of speakers I sat out and made fun of. So the speaker, I'm like, oh man, I know how brutal I was on people. But I gotta tell you that I'm stepping out a lot more now, and and you know what? Sometimes I shoot a video for my Instagram account. Your folks can follow it at the Bill Hampton. Yeah. And but I'll shoot a video and I'll look at it and go, man, I didn't look right there. That was a bad angle. Send it. Just send it. Send it, man. And that's being genuine right there. Just send it. Yeah. Authentic. And that's, like I tell you, like, there's no cutting in this podcast. It's raw. It's raw as raw could be. And I love that, man. Because if we mess up, we mess up. But we really didn't mess up because that's the way it was supposed to be, right? You know what? My good buddy says 80% and shared with the world is better than 100% and stuck in your head. Yeah. And I embrace that. Send it.
That's awesome. Bill, man, I know we got to get running here, and I am so grateful for your time. Thank you for sharing these awesome stories and inspiring and encouraging others, because the people need to know that you can do what you want to do. You just got to go do it, like you said. And you're going to fall. You're going to, let's say, I'll be candid, you're going to suck when you first start, right? You are. But that's the worst you're ever going to be. And then you're going to get better. And so just go do it, let it fly, trust in the Lord. And I mean, good things are going to come. So Bill, if people wanted to get a hold of you, how could they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, they can follow me on social media at the Bill Hampton on Instagram, Facebook, and anywhere out there. Or my company is Hampton Strategies. If they want more information, they can check me out at hamptonstrategies.com.
That's awesome, Bill. Again, I'm grateful. Thank you so much. And until next time, everybody, let's go get chiseled.